everyone. I thought I might share my reflection for this week's reading. Um, so let's just get started. It's from Matthew chapter 18, verse 21 to 35. Forgiveness. Then Peter came and said to him, Lord, if another member of the church sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times? Jesus said to him, Not 7 times, but I tell you 77 times. The parable of the unforgiving servant. For this reason, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning of who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him, and as he could not pay, his Lord ordered him to be sold, together with his wife and children and all his possessions, and payment to be made. So the slave fell on his knees before him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay everything. And out of pity for him, the Lord of the slave released him and forgave him the debt. But the same slave, as he went out, came upon one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him by the throat, he said, Pay what you owe. Then his fellow slave fell down and pleaded with him, Have patience with me, and I will pay you. But he refused. Then he went and threw him into prison, and until he should pay the debt. When his fellow slaves saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their lord all that had taken place. Then this lord summoned him and said to him, You wicked slave, I forgave you and all that debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not have had mercy on your fellow slave as I had mercy on you? And in anger, his Lord handed him over to be tortured until he should pay his entire debt. So my heavenly Father will also do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother or sister from your heart. Okay. All right. So, I think all of you have heard this. Heard about how Jesus calls us to love other people. I think that is probably the basic of this. This reading that calls us to forgive, which is something that's not easy to do. First, I'd like to bring the reading from John 13, verse 34 and 35, where it is stated that, I'll just read it out. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also should love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. I'm sure all of you have heard about these two verses before, but what is love? How do we define that? And the question that I'd like to ask each one of you is, how do you know that someone loves you? Was it something they did for you? And the reason why it's important to think about what love is and how we know that someone loves us is, let's say if someone were to say that I love you, but I don't want to do anything with you, don't want to do anything for you, would you believe that they love you? You probably won't, because loving someone takes effort, it takes time, and I guess that's where every single vocation you have to give up something, which really shows that love comes with sacrifice, and without sacrifice there is no love. let's say if you were to date someone and and or even marry someone, like one of the vocation of marriage, it shows that if you love this person, to be with this person, you have to sacrifice your status of being single, and then if you have family, that becomes your priority, and so on and so forth. And it's the same with being a priest. They have to give up their life pretty much, having the thought of having a family or spending lots of time with their own family, that's all limited because their main priority is the church and the people of the church. Now, love is put to a test when loving someone is not easy, when the other person may be perceived as unlovable, has done things that are wrong, unkind, or mean, or it's even harder when they have hurt you or your loved ones. And the world tells us to be just, that if you do something wrong, you will or should be punished. This is just the law of the world. But it is not our role to judge others, because it is His. And yes, with every sin there will be consequences. We live in a world where there is so much brokenness, in a world that is unjust. And we can never fully know what someone else is going through and what is in their hearts. Like in this parable, will it be easier to remove someone's debt if you're richer than if you're already in debt with someone else, or I guess financially minus? That's one way to put it. Or is it easier to forgive someone's debt if it's smaller than like the slave, or then if the debt were bigger, like the Lord in the parable? But this is not the point. We are called to love and to forgive one another without exceptions, regardless of if you're poor, rich, if it's easier or harder. We are all called to do the same thing. We are called to see the good in people and to try and love and forgive them as much as we can. It is our calling, and it is our identity as disciples of Christ. It is the biggest thing, and likely to be the most important thing that differentiates non-Christians and Christians. We can always choose to try and love, even though it's hard, and even when we don't feel like it. And as I was preparing for this reflection of mine, I remember watching a video about a Christian person. He was a black man in Texas, America, and at the time of writing this, I didn't fully remember what had happened to him, but after looking it up again, so what had happened was his brother was dead because a female cop who, a Caucasian person, mistakenly entered into his brother's apartment and shot him. It was an accident, but his brother died. And the video was about this, can't remember his name now, but this person who was 18 years old, the brother of the person who died, the victim, I guess, who was accidentally killed, and he made a statement saying that he has forgiven the cop who shot his brother. And he not only said that, he also said that he loved this person, he wishes nothing bad against the person. And I remember thinking at that time, wow, it's so amazing what he did. And if I were in his shoes, would I be able to do the same thing? Probably not. And if you think about it, he has no reason at all to do that other than because he was a Christian, because he wants to love this person, because he's called to love this person, and God really used this person. And what he said was probably not easy. It was probably against the Black community, against his family, because all of them were probably so angry and upset about the situation and wanted justice for their loved one. But thinking about this, because like I saw this video like probably about 3 years ago when it was happening, I realized that I didn't even remember the crime. But I remembered the goodness that this boy did. And I think that's what Christ wants us to be. To bring goodness to this world that is full of brokenness, world that is unjust, and to always choose love. Jesus has loved us so much that we were chosen to be his disciples, because not everyone is. And we know that he died on the cross for each and every one of us. Because if you don't believe this, you probably wouldn't be here listening to me. And the price of sin, no matter how small, how big, it's death. And his mercy was freely given out of love for each and every one of us, so that we can be witnesses of the living God. And if you look back to what started your Christian life, probably didn't start with, any good work that you did, good deeds or doctrines or anything that you've done at all, because it is not earned. It was freely given. And it likely started with a small act of love, like maybe someone invited you to church, to come to a church event or a meeting, or someone welcomed you to the event, or maybe it's your family or your parents who introduced you to Christ first, invited you to Sunday school, to church. And it probably started with someone caring enough about you that they want to introduce Christ and the story of salvation to you. We did not do anything to earn this. It was probably someone else's decision to love you. Or if you haven't experienced this, if it wasn't anyone and people have really treated you badly, well, know that God has loved you first and chose you to be his disciple, to be his child. And he really did die on the cross for you. Now, the challenge that I'm putting to all of you is to think about a person that you're struggling to love right now. It could be just someone you don't have much patience for, or just don't get along with for whatever reason, just feel annoyed at them, and it could be anything. And the challenge that I'm inviting each one of you to take is to ask yourself, how can I love this person a little bit more than earlier today? And I want you to keep building on this. Keep challenging yourself to love more. You can start with something small and can keep growing. Start with one person and then another. And if there's anything that's stopping you from doing this, like past hurts, resentments, or other negative emotions that's sin away, these are very, I want to say that these are very, very real consequences of sin. And in this case, it's probably someone else's sin. Put it on Jesus and on his cross. Pray for it. Really let him know that you are making a decision to try and forgive this person who have hurt you. And once you've done that, it's all a process. But it has to start with you. And if I can leave you with a message, it's one message. It's to always choose love, not because it's easy, but because we are called to. And to forgive, not because they earn it, but because God gave it freely to us first. And I will also share the link about the video of the person that I was telling you about, the court testimony. And yeah, God bless you. Thanks for listening.